1, 2, 3, let's go!
Well, hello everybody, Anthony here. Welcome back to the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have just ended up a little less than traditional. I'm just here chilling once again in my living room, getting ready for another week with my daughters. They're coming back to my house tonight. And boy, is there a lot to do. Actually, like 2-3 minutes before recording this episode, I was actually on the phone with their mom, getting everything all coordinated and situated for back to school time. Yes, it is finally here after what seems like a very, very, very long summer break with them being around all the time. I work from home during the day, so I have a remote job. So they were around constantly, and I had to hold on. Can you give me 1 second? I'm finishing up this phone call. So many times throughout the summer. We had fun though. We went on trips and we spent some good time together as a family, and we did a birthday party. We did a lot of good things this summer, but yeah, definitely ready for them to go back to school, to get some of that routine back in, to have my work days quiet again. Because we actually signed them up to go to like our local Boys and Girls Club throughout the workday this summer, so that way me and their mom could work. She works for herself, and like I said, I working from home. So we're like, let's get them like Boys and Girls Club memberships so they can go play and have fun and do crafts and do their thing during the day, and we can do what we need to do for work. But they just didn't end up liking going there very often. I think that honestly lasted maybe like a couple of weeks at the beginning of the summer, but they just kind of had some bad experiences, and you know, some of the kids there were kind of crazy, and we had a situation where a lunchbox was stolen, and then some money was taken out of a backpack, and there's been just cutting of hair. Yeah, my daughter got her hair cut by some kid, not this year, but last year. So I think that kind of scarred her a little bit, understandably. So anyways, they were supposed to be going to Boys and Girls Club. They didn't want to do that, and we respected that. So they would just kind of hang out with me all day while I'm working at my computer. They kind of just chilled and ran the house and ate a whole bunch of snacks and listened to very loud, annoying videos on YouTube 24/7. And so, yeah, I'm definitely ready for school to be back in session, to say the least. But yeah, just doing a lot of things to get ready, because they're actually going to like this new school this year. They're going to like a charter school type thing we have in our community, where not everybody can get in. My kids are special. I'm going to boast a little bit because we've been on this waiting list to get into this school for like 2 years. And then finally we were able to make it happen this year. Long story short, my daughter's teacher at public school last year is transitioning over to this new school, and their mom and this teacher formed like a really good friendship, and my daughter and this teacher had like a really good bond. So when this teacher was going over to this charter school, we were like, we need to do what we need to do to try to get into this school, because we love this teacher, and we'd love for my younger daughter to have her as a teacher one day. So we need to get into the school. We need to get into the school. And so we had a lot of conversations, a lot of crossing of the fingers, a lot of, just hoping, standing by via the email, hoping we'd get that magic email one day. And then sure enough, it came through, and they said the girls had been approved. They had been accepted. So we're getting ready to send them to this new charter school. We did like the whole open house thing last week, and we got to meet the teachers and say hi to the old teacher, and to see that some of their friends from the public school last year are also coming over to this school, so they don't have to start over 1,000% fresh when it comes to making friends and things like that. So the whole situation's pretty dope, and they're pretty excited about it. But with them going to this charter school, there is some differences that come into play compared to what they're used to going to public school last year. For example, they have to wear like uniforms at this charter school this year. They don't have to wear like standardized, like everybody has like the same like prep school type uniform thing. It's not like that, but they have to wear like white t-shirts or navy blue shirts without any logos, so only those two color shirts, and they have to wear like khaki pants and stuff like that. So they just it's going to be a little bit different than when they could just wake up, decide what they want to wear on the fly, and that's just going to be what it is because it's public school and you kind of just go do your thing. But I'm excited for that reality, the whole uniform thing, because one of my big stressors in life in general when it comes to raising kids comes from getting them dressed in the morning before school. I don't know that, like, I love raising daughters, I love being a dad, but that's the one thing that always just seems to be a fight, always seems to be like a point of stress throughout the day, because what we tried to do last year, we started picking out clothes the night before, right? So I'd be like, okay, here's some outfit ideas, here's some suggestions, what do you guys want to wear? And they would decide the night before, so we would set them out. So then the next morning, it would have had to be a whole to-do, trying to find outfits right before school, and that seemed to work well. But of course, there's the mornings where they wake up and they're like, oh, actually, I don't want to wear that shirt, or actually, I changed my mind, I don't want those pants. I want this one very specific shirt that's somewhere in my room. Haven't seen it in maybe like 6 months, but I know it's in there somewhere. So Dad, can you go find this shirt 10 minutes before school? Whew, man, oh man. And there's the whole getting them to brush their teeth and eat some breakfast and make sure they have their lunch. And then of course we'll leave the house. One of them will have forgotten their backpack. And so I'm just glad that at least for when it comes to the uniform, the clothing option thing, we just get to say, hey, sorry, this is what you have to wear to school. You got to wear this shirt. You got to wear these pants. There's no debates. There's no changing of the minds. It's kind of how it has to be. So that aspect I'm looking forward to. But yeah, just doing a lot of back to school prep for this new season. Going to go grocery shopping in a little bit. Going to do all the stuff to get ready as we're heading out of summer, heading into the fall era. And yeah, a lot of newness in the air. My kids are going to a new school. I told you I'm working this remote work from home job, and that started not too long ago. So we got a new job, and we're just kind of, just doing things as a family, taking things season by season. But as I was kind of thinking about the whole idea of new seasons, new eras, new beginnings in a lot of ways, especially in relation to my daughters going to a new school, I thought about the fact that one thing I would really want to take some time on this show to do, because we haven't obviously done it yet, is talk about the concept of new beginnings and new eras and new seasons, in particular, specifically when it comes to being a single parent, specifically entering into the single parent reality as a brand new single parent. You're just maybe at the very beginning of that season, at that phase of your life. Maybe it's unexpected, but whatever it is, you find yourself looking around at your context, and your context is being a single parent. You're brand new to the whole idea of that. And so there's a lot of situations as to how and why people enter into the single parent reality. So obviously a big thing is like you had a partner, maybe a husband or maybe a boyfriend or something like that, and you had kids together, but for whatever reason that relationship has ended. So you're going your way, they're going their way. And so now you find yourself as a single parent, co-parenting and living in that reality. Again, perhaps unexpectedly, because I don't think a lot of people in that situation specifically enter into a relationship with somebody, right? Being like, yeah, let's just kind of do this whole thing for 5 years and then we'll have some big falling out, or we'll just realize this doesn't work and we'll break up. Like, that's just part of the plan. No, usually the plan is, hey, I love you, you love me, or let's get together, I at least like you, let's do this whole thing and let's just see if we can make this work, and we'll be partners in this and maybe even spouses, and to death do us part, that whole thing. But then again, I can list off situation after situation as to why maybe that just wasn't the case, didn't work out. Maybe there was some cheating involved. Maybe there was some, abuse and unhealth and toxicity. Maybe it's not even that dramatic. Maybe you just realized, hey, this person isn't my person. They realized it. I realized it. We're cool. It's mutual, but we're just, not meant to be in that way. But whatever the reason is, you find yourself no longer with you're a significant other, if you will, and now you're raising kids solo for the most part. So there's that. There's also situations where maybe you were in a relationship or coupled up with somebody, and unfortunately maybe they passed away, something of that nature. Maybe you just find yourself as a single parent because you were with somebody and you thought they were going to be there for the long haul, but then they just bounced, they just disappeared. It wasn't even like a breakup. It was just like, hey, you're pregnant. I hear that, but I don't want anything to do with that kid. I'm not committing to that. Like, deuces, I'm out, and they just bounce. There's situations like that. But I just been thinking a lot about the fact that there's most likely people who are listening to this podcast who are brand new single parents, and they're probably feeling a lot of feelings. They're probably having a lot of thoughts. They're probably working through so many different emotions as they're in this new phase of their life, at this new beginning in their life. And so for me, for my context, I've been a single parent for about 5-6 years now. So I wouldn't say I'm new to the reality, but I do remember still that summer 5 or 6 years ago where I stepped into it because I was married for a few years and we had a couple kids together. But that one particular summer, it just was very obvious that marriage just was ending and needed to end for different reasons. And so I just found myself at one point in time who was thinking oh yeah, we're going to be the couple that's going to be married forever, and we'll retire together, and we'll get an RV and live on the beach together after we've raised our kids and, attended their weddings together and held our grandkids together. Like many people, that was my expectation and assumption heading into that relationship, but reality just set in, and that just wasn't going to be the case. And so now my reality had to shift from till death do us part to now it's me with my kids alone every other week. And my kids at that time, they were super young. They were I don't know, 2, 3, maybe even younger than that. So I had these 2 little girls while I'm trying to navigate all of these big feelings. And I remember that summer very, very vividly. So in light of that, what I just wanted to do is just take the rest of this episode just to offer up 5 pieces of advice to anybody who finds themselves either brand new to being a single parent, or maybe you're in a situation where you're just what, we haven't left each other yet, we haven't divorced yet, we haven't separated yet, they haven't left yet, but whatever it is, I think this is coming. I think this is going to be my reality soon. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to expect, what's going to happen when XYZ goes down. The rest of this episode is going to be hopefully some helpful pieces of wisdom to help navigate those waters a little bit. All right, so 5 big key pieces of advice I would give to any new single parent out there. The first thing I would say is just make sure you feel your feelings. Feel the feelings, feel the emotions. Let yourself experience the experience. What do I mean by that? Well, usually when it comes to these situations, whether it's divorce, separation, breakup, whatever, there's going to be some big emotions that are definitely going to be involved with those type of situations. So let's just take a divorce or something like that. There could be a lot of sadness involved, right? There could be a lot of feeling of failure involved. There could be a lot of anger, right, involved with that. There could be a lot of depression and a lot of loneliness. There could be a lot of fear because oh my gosh, I was, doing life with this person, practically, financially, relationally, raising kids together. And now I have to figure out how I'm going to do this all myself. And I got to go find a new place to live. And I need to figure out how I'm going to do the bills now. And I need to figure out, how I'm going to be there to put my kids to bed because that was what the other person did. And now I got to figure out how to do that whole routine myself. There's some big feelings and emotions that come with that reality. And so when I say feel all of those feelings, what I mean specifically is in those situations, it could be very easy, especially when your kids are young and they're still looking up to you and depend on you for so much, to kind of bury those feelings down and just say, well, I just got to figure it out. I just got to do what I have to do. So I can't worry about crying. I can't worry about going to therapy. I can't worry about journaling. I can't worry about processing what's happening. I just got to be strong for my kids. I got to be tough for my kids. I got to be resilient for my kids. And there's a lot to respect there. Obviously, we, as the parent, we have to still do what we got to do to show up for our kids, providing that safe, loving, accepting environment for them. So that's true. I get that. But at the same time, one of the most healthy things I think that you can do for yourself as you're still looking to love and pour into your kids is to really let yourself feel what's going on so you could work through those feelings and get to some of the other stuff that we're going to talk a little bit later on as I work my way down this list. It's okay to feel those things. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to scream out to the sky and be like, this wasn't supposed to be this way. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Everything was supposed to work out. Why? It's okay to let yourself ask those questions and process. I remember the summer that everything hit with me, what I did, I just remember once I knew, there was a day in particular, I knew like, nope, this was it. Like, this is going to be done. My life's never going to be the same after this. Like, we're not going back. We're not working it out. We're moving forward. The day I woke up and officially knew that, the girls were with their mom. And I just remember going to we have like a local community college in our area. So I just remember going there. It was like on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever. There was nobody else there. And I just remember parking my car. And I just remember sitting there for like an hour or two, just by myself, letting the reality hit me. And I started tearing up and crying at one point because what got me was like, oh my gosh, I am most likely not going to, see my daughters every single day because what I'm about to step into, because there's going to be times now that we're not together that she's going to have the girls and it's going to be quote unquote her time and the girls are going to be with her and I'm just not going to be able to wake up and like see them every single day. That's just how it is. And for some reason that thought like hit me and I just had to sit with that and I had to let tears come down my face. And then of course I got angry because again, I was like, no, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Like what? And then, the self-pity comes in and like, man, if I just would have done this and this differently, it would have worked out. And then the projection on the other person, if they just would have done this and this differently, then it would have worked out. The whole process of emotions just had to be felt. And I'm glad I took that day to do that because then when it came to getting into some of the practicals that I had to figure out, like living situation, budgets, taking care of the kids, I was still able to navigate that with somewhat of a clear mind, for as clear as I could get in that situation, because I spent some time working through some of the big emotions that can cloud a lot of that judgment later. And obviously that's not going to be like a one-time thing. Like it's, especially when there's a lot of hurt involved in those type of situations, it could take months or even years to work through and to process those emotions. But I would just say, don't deny yourself the ability to do that. As much as you want to seem strong for your kids or for your family or for people around you or even the other person, like you don't want them to know that you're upset. You don't want them to know that you've been crying. Of course, we want to look like we have all of our crap together at all times to seem like Superman or Wonder Woman. But even if it's just, before bed, you close the door and you just let yourself feel the stuff. Let yourself feel all the stuff. So that would be my first point of advice. My second point would be just to be honest with yourself and with your kids about the reality. So what do I mean by this? First, being honest with yourself about the reality just means that, hey, like you are in this reality. As much as you worked through the emotions and felt all the feelings, that's good. But now there is the practical reality of like, no, this is my life. This is what things look like for right now. And I can't, dismiss that. I can't reject that. I can't sugarcoat that. This is the reality. And to be honest, of the fact that, hey, this is probably going to be tough. It's going to be tough figuring some of this stuff out. It's not going to be easy. This isn't going to be some Lifetime movie where something magical happens and everything kind of gets resolved next week with a nice pretty bow on top. No, being honest with yourself of like, hey, this is probably going to be hard. This is probably going to suck for a while. This does suck, but this is what's up, and I need to acknowledge that, and I need to be upfront with myself about that. And then, like I said, just being honest with your kids. Now, obviously, this comes with some contextualization. Obviously, you're not going to sit your 5-year-old down and be like, so this is what happened with everything with mom and dad, and this is blah, 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 blah. Like, no, I'm not talking about that. But being honest with them about the fact that, hey, you know what? Like, life's going to maybe look a little different. Like, we're not going to see mommy every day anymore, but it's going to be super cool when you get to go to her house and hang out, or, hey, mom and dad aren't going to live together anymore. This is what we tell our kids, is that, hey, yeah, we were married, mom and dad aren't living together anymore, but we're still friends, we're still cool. You can come to either one of us at any time if you ever need anything. Like, we just try to make it as open with them and be as real with them as possible, because I think sometimes it could be super easy to try to protect our kids from the reality, from a lot of the stuff where, again, I'm not saying you need to go into super detail with them about everything, but they need to know that, hey, this is life and it could be okay, and we're going to work through it together, and there's still going to be a lot of exciting things about it. And guess what? You're still loved. This isn't going to change the way, this doesn't change the way either your mom or your dad feel about you. Just letting them know, letting them in a little bit on the process, so that way you're not just trying to shield them or be naive to the fact that they're not noticing that stuff is different. They're not aware of the fact that, hey, mom seems a little sad today, but she doesn't think I noticed that, but I do. Or they're not naive to the fact that, hey, I don't, things have changed. I don't live at this house anymore, and I'm going to a new school now. Like, they're obviously, depending on their age, for sure, there's going to be different levels to this, but whatever, regardless of the age, they're going to notice stuff, and they're still going to internalize your presence, and they're still going to pick up on things relative to what their age can comprehend. So just being as open and upfront with them and yourself as possible, I think brings a lot of value to the situation. Number 3 is pretty big. Number 3's tip is to find yourself some good supports. Finding yourself some good, loving, caring people you can surround yourself with during this time, I think, is key. So here's one thing to keep in mind, though, when looking for these people to come alongside of you in this season. It can be really easy in this time, especially when there is like a nasty separation or divorce that's happening, to just surround yourself with people who are just gonna feed in to all the hate and negativity and to the anger that you're living into. Like, so every time you get together with this group of friends, you're always talking about how the other parent is trash and they ruin things and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I saw him out with this girl already, and she was doing this last week with the kids. You're not going to believe what I saw when I ran into them at the store. Now, that's not healthy and that's not productive. You don't need to surround yourself with people who just want to focus on that, right? Like, again, as we're experiencing the emotions, anger and frustration is going to be a part of it. So I'm not saying you can't have friends to kind of talk through some of the anger points with, but you don't want people who are just going to keep you stuck there, right? Keep you stuck in the toxicity. You want people who are going to come alongside of you and say, you know what? Yeah, that does suck, but how can we be there for you? With the other parents doing it, we get it. It's messy. It's chaotic. But how can we be there for you right now? What do you need? What do you just need to cry right now? Can I give you a hug while you cry? Do we just need to laugh right now? Hey, come on, let's go see a funny movie, or let's go do something fun. Do you just need somebody to sit with you? Maybe you don't even really need to talk and get deep. You just want somebody there so you're not just sitting in your house alone. What do you need? Finding people, whether through a friend group or like a religious group or like a club or a sports team or something, I don't know, something like that, where you're able to surround yourself with people who are going to help you move forward. Because that's what's really, really tricky about being a brand new single parent, where there's a lot of things to figure out and a lot of emotions. And we'll talk about more in this in a second, but it can be really easy just to stay stuck and feel like you have no options. But to have people around you saying, no, we're not going to let you stay stuck. We're not going to stay not okay. Not saying that you need to just get over it and you'll be fine next week, but we're going to help carry the burden with you a little bit, so that way, step by step, you can work through this new reality that you find yourself in. I think it's 100% crucial to working through the first early early days of being a single parent. And that's ultimately like what we'd really want to do with the show. Like, I know practically it's not the same as, having a friend come over and stop by for dinner, literally, but we want this show to be like a medium where you're able to listen and to know that you're not alone, and there's other people who know what you're going through, and we can encourage each other and lift each other up. So that's the whole point of why I started the show, is so we can kind of help be in some way that person or that group of people in the lives of people who need it the most. So find yourself some people, stick with those people. So the number four tip I'd give to newly single parents is let your season be your season. Now, this might take some explaining, but here's what I mean by this. There's a couple like subtopics that come with this point. The first is to let your season be your season, meaning that this might be a good time for you to work through some stuff within you. One of the best things I was able to realize in my single parent journey, especially within that first year or so, was that I had a brand new ability, maybe not even just within marriage, but for the first time in my life, to really devote some time to me, to figuring out who I am, to figuring out what I like, what I don't like, to figure out what my love languages are, to figure out how I function relationally, to figure out what my goals and ambitions are, because it was now just me. Now that I wasn't married anymore, I didn't have to really put in a lot of energy and a lot of emotion into somebody else. It was just me, for sure my kids, but when it was just me, it was just me. So I was able to devote a lot of time to, the cheesy saying, like dating myself, but there's a lot of truth to it. Dating myself and experiencing myself and working through stuff myself and understanding myself. So that way, eventually, if it comes to be I get in another relationship or get remarried again, I think it'll be in a much healthier place than before, because I would have gone through so much work, working through my season, working through my own understanding of myself. That way I'll be able to enter in some other type of relationship, hopefully in a healthier way, because I'll be able to do it as a true, authentic version of myself and not some version of myself that I think I have to be or that I don't fully understand, if that makes sense. So let yourself have that season for you, to work through you, to engage with yourself. I think a big temptation is, especially, when you're brand new to being single, is that it can be really easy just to want to jump into the next relationship, right? It can be really easy to be like, yeah, I just don't like being alone, so let me just go find the first guy who pops up on Tinder, or the first guy who my friends bring around, or the first guy or girl I meet at the bar. It can be really tempting to do that, and I'm not saying that can't work out, but I think that there's some wisdom to maybe pausing a little bit, especially if you're brand new to being single, and just saying, yeah, like I would like to be with somebody one day, but for a year or two, let me just do me. Like you can go out and you can have fun, you can go on dates and stuff like that, but when it comes to just making sure that you are good, you've worked through some of those emotions, you built a good sense of community, I would just very caution a little bit before feeling the temptation to rush into something else. Like, I just don't like being single, so I need to get out of this season of being single and rush into the next relationship, rush into the next marriage, because I think that's just what I have to do. And that kind of also goes with another like subcategory within this tip, is that you just can't be comparing yourself in your life to other people's lives or other people's expectations or things you see on social media, because it can be really easy as a new single parent to, when you're feeling lonely and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling not worthy of love and all those things, to look online and see all these happy couples and all the smiling marriages, and you see, people holding hands as they're walking down the street, and you start comparing yourself in your context to that, and you start feeling low about yourself. And so then it kind of turns into the whole, well, I'll just take anybody who gives me attention or whatever. Maybe the kid's other parent is already in a relationship, and so you feel like you're behind them when you guys, separated at the same time, but they're already dating or maybe getting married again, and you still haven't been able to quote unquote find somebody. We just can't be doing that whole comparison thing, because everybody's timing's different. Everybody's context is different. Everybody's reality is different, and what you need in that period, what you need in that season is going to be unique to you. Unlike what other people are necessarily going through. And what you need specifically in that season might be unique to you. So don't compare. Don't give yourself these false timelines. Don't give in to the temptation to rush through, working through stuff on your own. Don't let yourself, just give yourself some time to figure out to figure out what you want, to figure out what you need, to have those boundaries and standards so set because you spent 2 years doing the work to where when somebody else wants to try to show up and be in your kids' life, your standards and your expectations and your boundaries and your non-negotiables are so set because now right? Now like, hey, I've been a single parent now for a couple of years. I know I can do it. Not saying it's always the easiest thing in the world, but I've survived. And so I don't need you to come into my life. I don't need you to make me feel whole. I don't need you to make me feel fulfilled. If I like you to come in, that's great. But if it doesn't work out, then I don't have to lower my standards, lower my non-negotiables, lower my boundaries to accommodate you because I know I can just keep doing it myself if need be. I think there's so much power there. There's so much strength there, but it takes a while to get there. So let yourself go through the season and let yourself go through that time. Which leads me to my last tip number 5 for newly single parents. And that's just simply just to take things day by day. It is going to take time to work through some of the feelings. It is going to take time to heal. And there's probably going to be some aspects of it, especially if the previous relationship was messy and painful and complicated. There is going to be some aspect that, you're still going to be always carrying around a little bit of that pain, and that's fine and understandable. But to let yourself just give yourself the ability just to wake up and say, you know what, I barely have the strength right now after my divorce, after my breakup, after the loss of my partner, after whatever it is that put me in the context of being a single parent. After all of that, I barely just had the strength just to get up and get out of my bed and go make my kids breakfast. But I'm going to just apply what little strength I have left to doing that, and that we'll just see what happens after that. If that's all that you can say every single day when you get up, then that's fine. Then let yourself just get up, get out of bed, and just do that. And then tomorrow you can do that again. And then the next day you just use your strength to do that again. Just take it day by day, because eventually what's going to happen, you will start getting a little bit more strength. If you're surrounding yourself with positive people, so positive support group, through their help, every day will get a little bit easier. If you're feeling and working through your emotions and, maybe you are going to therapy or journaling or taking walks, whatever, you will be able to soon process things. If you're giving yourself time to know yourself, to understand yourself, then you will see some personal growth. It just takes time, and you just got to commit to working through the journey one day at a time. I know it can be super easy to be like, well, okay, let's just do that. Here's what I'll do. I'll figure it out for like a year. Then after a year, I'll start dating. And after 2 years, I'll get married again. And after 3 years, I'll have more kids. And maybe all that will happen, but you just gotta slow down. And you just gotta just let yourself go through the process, especially if your reality is just kind of maybe unexpected, or again, we got divorced this year, but 3 years ago I met this person. We were so in love, and we were making all these plans, and we did the whole wedding and did the vows, and now look at us, we can't even be in the same room together. The fact that a few years ago maybe you had one set of expectations, and then now years later you're working through different expectations, should just go to show that we just don't know what's going to happen in life. One day we can be saying we want to spend the rest of our lives with somebody, and then the next year we're in a co-parenting situation with them, living in 2 different houses. We just don't know. So that's why let's just take it day by day. Let's just take some breaths. Let's just go through the process. And I promise you, as much pain and anger and sadness that you're feeling, if you just go through the journey with some of those tips in mind, again, it will get better. It will get easier, and you will be able to continue to show up in the lives of your kids, in your own relationship with yourself, and you're going to come out of it just doing the best you can with it. Because one thing I'm thankful for now, looking back after, 5 or 6 years of being a single parent, everything I had to work through and all of my emotions and highs and lows, is now whenever I look into the future and I'm like, I got to figure out this, and this situation comes up, and do I have the strength to work through this? Now I can just look back at my past and be like, oh yeah, whatever's coming up now, easy. I got it. Because I was at rock bottom. I was lower than low. I was in the parking lot of my community college crying because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I can look back after 5 years and say, I was able to work through it. I was strong enough to get through it. So now if I got to like time travel and go hang out with myself 5 years ago in that community college parking lot, one thing I would tell myself is like, hey, like you're going to go through some tough crap over the next several years, but I don't think I would trade that experience away for anything, because it was through the hardships, through the tears, through the emotions, through the anger, through the lonely nights, through having to figure this out, through having to figure that out, that I learned so much about myself that I don't think I would have gotten to learn about otherwise. So actually, in a weird way, I'm very thankful that I was able to go through a lot of that stuff, because I truly do believe it just made me stronger, and it made me appreciate myself overall in a very unique way. So for those of you at the very beginning of your journey of being a single parent, just know that, just give yourself some time, and know maybe in 3, 5, 10 years, you'll be able to look back and see perhaps some positive things that came from this new season. Because I know it's very easy in this moment just to think that this is it, this is your life, and this moment, this little bubble that you're in right now, this is it. But no, this isn't it. This is just a part of the journey. This is just the beginning of a new phase of your life, and things will continue to move forward. Things will continue to get better, and you can have hope knowing that you can come out of this season into whatever else is next for you in life even stronger. But what do you all think? What do you think about some of those tips? What do you think about that advice? Maybe there's some of you listening like me who kind of have been a single parent for a while, or who have had to work through a lot of those emotions and realities years ago, and now you would be able to sit down and offer some advice of your own to somebody who's new to this whole situation. What would you say? What would you do? Maybe you are the person who's a brand new single parent. You're just trying to figure stuff out, and you're just still processing a whole lot of stuff. Regardless, this is why we have our email address. It's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love for you to write in, share your thoughts, share your perspectives, share your experience, because I think it was tip number 3. This is why we have a community of support. So we just know we're all in this together, and you don't have to be alone regardless of your situation. But that's going to get right into it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. A few things I'd like to ask you to do before you officially head out. Number 1, just make sure you've hit subscribe on this podcast on your favorite podcast hosting platform, or on YouTube, or wherever, TikTok, X, Facebook, all the things. That way you never miss an episode of the show going forward. Number 2, I would just ask you to like and rate this podcast 5 stars, as high as the platform will let you rate it, because then the algorithm will know that the show is legit and it'll pass it along to more people. And then lastly, share the podcast. Please share it with a friend, family member, neighbor. Maybe, again, a lot of this conversation today applied to people who are brand new to being single parents. So maybe you have somebody in your life, you're like, yeah, they're currently going through a divorce, or they're currently separated, or their loved one just passed away, or maybe they're having a kid just by themselves because the other parent bounced. Whatever the situation is, please share this podcast with them, and I really do hope they get a lot of value from the conversation we had today. But that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Anthony, and until next time, you just keep doing the best you can. Bye.